G'day, ladies and gents. G'day, folks all around the goddamn globe. Welcome to the first edition, the first of many, of the 4 Hour Time. I am one of your hosts, your co-host, if you will, the Australian icon Nick Storm. Joining me,
I am the Hollywood idol, young Anthony. You know, we have the Australian icon. You know, I kind of had to fit the gimmick a little bit. Holy shit, we're finally doing it.
Yeah,
we are.
It feels like this has been in the works for quite some time, and now we're finally doing it. So it's a very, very fun time. I cannot wait. We both watched WrestleMania very, very fresh. I watched it last night. Young Anthony watched it today, so it's fresh in our minds. And guys, if you don't know what the show is all about, I'll give you a little rundown. Pretty much, we're a little bit too young. I'll be honest. We were in our daddy's sack when this was all going on. So we thought, let's watch every Mania chronologically in order and review them and make a show about it. And who knows, this is season 1 of Before Our Time. So once we finish Mania, maybe we'll go on to another set of pay-per-views. But who knows, dude? This is fun. This is gonna be really cool, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, man, it's going to be a good time all around. Like you said, you know, we're starting off with Manias. We're going to go each week up until, I believe it's March 31st is the Friday before WrestleMania 39. And before we get into the show, I was talking to you off camera about my shirt today. And I'm actually wearing a WrestleMania 39 shirt because my mother got me a Christmas gift. I actually went to Mania 38 this year, and instead of getting me the shirt for Mania this year, she got me the shirt for Mania next year. I'm not going to the Mania next year, but this is the perfect time to finally bring out this shirt. And no better time to do it. Yeah, we're going to start with all the Manias this time around. Next time, who knows? Maybe we'll dip into some WCW, ECW, ROH. We're going to have a fun time here. But before we get into it, because we have a slew of different segments, let's just talk a little bit about, what your first WrestleMania was, and really, what does WrestleMania mean to you?
Yeah, my first WrestleMania, I can't remember what number it was, but I think it might have been Flair and Shawn, that Mania.
Oh,
I think that might have
24.
been the first one I ever watched, 24, yeah. That might have been the first one I ever watched, but as a youngin', I was the only one in my family who was into wrestling, so we couldn't really order the pay-per-views. I'd just have to watch like highlights of the Raw like the next night, you know what I mean? That they'd show and stuff like that. But another Mania that really sticks out to me is the first Rock and Cena. I had that on DVD, that whole Mania, and I think it had Punk and Jericho on it or something like that. And I just remember watching that DVD on repeat over and over again. And yeah, it's a very, very special time because it has some of my favorites on there, and you know, it's completely nostalgic now to me. So WrestleMania is it's a fun time, biggest event of the year regardless. Like I'm an AEW mark to the moon, I'll admit it, right? But like WrestleMania is the biggest show of the year, and it feels like that. So yeah, I'm excited to get through all these WrestleManias because I know there are some great ones that I missed out on too.
Yeah, absolutely. My first Mania, I remember it vividly. The first one that I watched live was 26. That was the one with Shawn Michaels retiring. And like, to give you a perspective, like I started watching wrestling in like the end of 2009. So my first Mania was like 3 months after that. And when Shawn Michaels retired, I'm going to be honest, I cried like a baby. The thing is, I've been only watching wrestling 3 months. Why am I crying for a guy that I barely know anything about? That is what WrestleMania means to me, folks. The fact that you are able to take these moments, you know, be able to connect with these wrestlers on such a stage that you pay $50 to see, but nonetheless, a stage that you are able to, you know, connect with these huge icons in wrestling. You know, some of the greatest moments in wrestling have happened in these 38 shows that we're going to be talking about. And the fact that we have only seen maybe 10 of them at most, give or take, is surreal to me. And it makes this concept for this show even better. I cannot wait to get into it. And it's going to be a fun time overall. And Do you hear that bell, Nick? I think that means that it's time to get into the show once and for all. And we are going to start with our first segment. And that is the road to WrestleMania. Now, you can't talk about WrestleMania before, or if you can't talk about all of the things that led up to it. And that is especially certain for the first WrestleMania. Uh, when you're talking about the word WrestleMania, there really should be one name that comes to mind. And that is, of course, Vince McMahon himself. When it comes to Vince, WrestleMania is truly the story about him. After founding Titan Sports in 1980, he truly recognized the power of, national broadcasting and wanted to implement this into the WWF. I'm sure everyone knows the territory system. It was split up. The United States was split up into a bunch of regions, and wrestling companies can only work within their specific region. Couldn't go out of that. Vince was the first guy to say, "Fuck it, we're gonna go out of our region. I want to make WWF national." So he gained 100% ownership of the WWF, took 50% from his dad, took 20% from Gorilla Monsoon, who in turn, he made the voice of the WWF. More on that later. And he proceeded to pull the WWF out of the National Wrestling Alliance, which was huge because this would then allow him to start basically just poaching the entire regional star landscape. He got guys like Roddy Piper, Ricky Steamboat, and the big guy himself, Hulk Hogan. A lot more on him in a little bit. We're going to be talking all about Hulk. And Vince basically wanted to remodel wrestling in his image and likeness. Like, he wanted to use a lot of what he found was entertaining and turn wrestling into sports entertainment. A big thing of this, Nick, I don't know if you've ever heard about them. Dianabol, it's a performance-enhancing drug known as steroids. You may have heard about them. Not sure if you ever knew, but basically,
I'm injecting them right now as we go on to this. You just can't.
right,
It's
right
under
into the fucking,
the camera
just
cuts
that
off.
adrenaline
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
need to
That's
get through
how
the
I'm.
show.
That's how I'm going. Yeah, that's how I get going.
Exactly. But a lot of wrestlers needed that to be going as well, and Vince was all for it. You started seeing guys, turn into these beefy superheroes like, Jimmy Snuka, superstar Billy Graham. These were the first guys to really take steroids. And the biggest blow to what would eventually be the WWF as we know it going into WrestleMania was the pursuit of putting his product on national TV. He basically encroached upon local broadcasting deals of other companies, which really broke an unspoken rule at the time. You really should not have done that if you were if you were any wrestling company. But he basically offered networks better production value and ultimately better ratings that would in turn lead to the WWF getting on national TV. They got a deal with the USA Network and a lot of syndicated networks, and they were off and running from there. And that's really how Vince basically raided the territories and turned WWF into what was once a regional territory, regional company, into the only competitor in the United States. Like doing my research on this, it got me really just amazed at how Vince was able to pull this shit off. I mean, like, it makes you think, like, he made all these changes to not only the WWF, but like wrestling in general. I kind of wanted to ask you, like, knowing like what I just said with everything of Vince's business tactics, let's take a company like AEW that focuses more on like the in-ring work rather than the, big beefy superheroes, sports entertainment. Bruh. If a product like AEW was around this time in the 80s and they had the business mindset of Vince McMahon to like raid the territories, go national, do you think a product like AEW could flourish with the same business practices but more of a focus on the in-ring talent? Or do you think that like, the need for, these big superheroes, less focus on the in-ring work, more characters was what sold the national landscape?
Well, it's like a very interesting point you bring up, like, because it's making me think. of every possibility, like, if that were to happen. But I feel like what wrestling really needed to get started are those big superhero characters. Like you think of the '80s, like you just think of Hulk Hogan. To me, at least, I think of Hulk Hogan, like, and I think that goes for a lot of people as well. Not just like who are very much into wrestling nowadays, maybe like. So if you had big names like that, and you need superstardom because they're you're kind of going with like celebrities. You're working side by side with celebrities on, especially this mania. There's a fair few, so I feel like you kind of have to match that in comparison. And the only way is to have these larger than life characters. Maybe AEW could have done it with great in ring work, but I don't think great in ring work was really. I guess it wasn't really as well respected back then as it is now. I feel like because people are a lot more into the kind of how to make the sausage when it comes to wrestling. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah, no, that's a great point. You just watch AEW, and it's like you can definitely see the differences in what the WWF, WWE are doing and what AEW is doing. Obviously, there's a lot more of a focus on showcasing the just pure in-ring talent of these guys, and for the most part, like I'm all for it. Like I'm a huge AEW fan, but I think, and a lot of people just complain about like, oh, they're not crossing over into the mainstream and the getting those casual viewers. To a point, that's true, but I think it's a lot different in the WWF's case because I feel like they were only catering to the casual fans. Like, sure, they were getting a lot of these guys in, like, Jimmy Snuka and British Bulldogs and all these different guys who were very technical based wrestlers, but they were also getting a lot of those guys who were more for, the big superhero guys like Paul Orndorff, Hogan, guys who at the time weren't as known, but would eventually become stars in the WWF because of their physique and how they were positioned on the card. So it just really makes you think about, the perception on wrestling around this time. And for sure, that was a really good point there. But speaking of bringing in these stars, getting your guys, and by they I mean Vince and the WWF got their guy, to say the least, and his name was Hulk Hogan. Hogan was a guy, to say the least. Nick, I'm gonna hit you with a little trivia. Did you
Yeah.
know that before becoming a wrestler, Hulk Hogan was a member of a band and he played the bass? Did you know that?
Oh. Well, that's where he should have goddamn stayed. No, I'm kidding. I didn't know that. That's very interesting. Like, I like a little to dabble on a little bit of the bass, a little bit of the guitar, if you will. I said car.
Guitar,
I'm
sure,
all over the
sure.
place because look at that. I'm in the presence of Hulk Hogan. Look at this man.
Oh,
But I think it like it's funny to think if Hulk just stayed as a bass player and Vince never picked him up. You know what I mean? He would just
yeah. Well, I
maybe he would
mean,
have become one of these rock and roll stars. Who knows? Because he would have had the. I think he would have made it regardless, which is hilarious. Whatever field he's in, because he's just an entertainer, full stop. But it's a very like interesting fact. I wonder if he still plays it to this day.
well, he has the look for it for sure. If he was a rock star or he was a wrestler, one and the same. You know what I mean? Being a professional guitar player for Aerosmith compared to being in the main event of WrestleMania, fuck it, it's completely the same thing. But no, so he was not a bass player for long because he was discovered in a club in 1976 by Jack and Gerald Briscoe, and after some work around the territories, he finally found his way to New York in 1979 to work for Vince Sr., Vince Jr.'s dad, as a heel, which is very interesting. More on that in a sec. Hogan left the WWF for a brief period in 1981 to film a little movie called Rocky 3 as Thunderlips in the Flesh. Have you ever seen Rocky 3?
Dude, I haven't. It's one of those movie series that I've been wanting to just completely marathon because I know how great they are. But like, I think I've seen the first Rocky, just bits and pieces. But I
Yeah.
think maybe with this series, it's gonna make me watch the whole however many 20 movies that they made.
Yeah. All you need to see is Rocky 4 because it's just the ultimate like America on steroids. A guy dies in the ring. The Russian guy gets steroids. It's fantastic. Watch Rocky 4. No, but anyways.
Okay.
So he goes to film Rocky 3, and according to Hogan himself, which means we have to take this with a grain of salt, Vince Sr. disapproved of the decision because he felt that wrestlers should be wrestlers and not movie stars. He didn't really understand that like crossover appeal. So Hogan, regardless, took a leave of absence from the WWF, did Rocky 3, and he actually ended up back in both the AWA and working in Japan. Now, if you go online, if you go on YouTube and you just search for Hulk Hogan Japan matches, it is the weirdest thing because when you're used to seeing like the Hulk up, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, you get like some technical based wrestling with Hogan with all these like, very good in-ring wrestlers from Japan that it's just mind blowing. Of course, technical based for Hogan is, like a wrist lock and an arm drag every now and then, but it's still interesting to see nonetheless. So he goes to Japan, he goes to the AWA, and really this is where you start to see the development of Hulkamania. What I mean by that is you start to see more of his character come out. He develops what we know of him today, his promo style, hulking up. He actually uses Eye of the Tiger as his theme song, which is a song from the Rocky franchise. Of course, you can't see that on Peacock because they'll, play the actual Hulkamania theme song. And this was to the point where in AWA, the fans started bringing out Hulkamania signs to shows well before Vince Jr. snagged him up and brought him back to the WWF to be the big star for, the first WrestleMania and the WWF going forward. But he eventually did come back to the WWF, and he was practically handed the WWF Championship in Madison Square Garden at the beginning of 1984 in a match against the Iron Sheik. And from there on out, WWF was off to the races with their top star. Hogan was immediately a huge draw, and he would be very instrumental in the buildup and the eventual success of WrestleMania 1. What are your thoughts on like mainstream wrestler crossovers? Like, do you feel like there's, like a positive impact that they have on the business at all? Or do you feel it's just like, celebrities that are using wrestling almost as a stepping stone to stardom? Like you've seen it with The Rock recently, you've seen it with Cena. You could even be seeing it with like Sasha and Roman Reigns. Of course, that's still up in the air, but like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you see the appeal? Like, does it help the wrestling companies, or is it just in the business of helping the wrestlers themselves?
Yeah, I think it is. It's a matter of when you're wrestling, you can't really do this for so long. Wrestling careers they don't have that much longevity. So you have to branch out and find these new ways to make money, make a living and stuff like that. And I feel like movie stars like John Cena and The Rock have done a great job of it. The Rock, I think he's the highest paid actor in the world. I think. Don't hold me to that. Google that if you wish. I don't know. These are the facts here on Before Our Time. But I think it only helps because everyone knows The Rock, which is kind of nuts. Like when you think about it, he was just this wrestler in the 90s and in the 2000s and stuff like that. But everyone knows The Rock, and it is because of his just huge name status. It might be because that he made a name for himself in Hollywood as well. And I think it all comes back to wrestling. If people are like, man, I've been hearing The Rock like all the time. Maybe they want to see a match of his from back in the day. Who knows? And I think it only helps.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it from both ends. I definitely think that it helps the wrestling company. Like you have this huge megastar, you have your Rock and your Cena, and like you said, everyone knows The Rock, everyone knows John Cena to a point where people call him The Rock more than they do Dwayne Johnson, which I think is hysterical. But yeah, to a point, I think you definitely do have a lot of these megastars that could help your brand. But at the same time, I could see it from the other way that it's like a lot of these wrestlers use wrestling to get their feet wet, make their stardom there. And then eventually they'll cross over. And, a lot of the times, like when you have a wrestler turn movie star, it doesn't always pan out, the right way. But when you have those moments where you have like your Rocks and your Cenas that turn into like the biggest celebrities in the world, that's where I kind of think that it almost doesn't help either the WWE or any wrestling company for that matter, because then you're left with, okay, here's The Rock. He was our big megastar main eventer, and here he is for a few years, and then he goes to do a movie. Well, now he's just left us. He's not coming back for a while. Now we need to start rebuilding, and the WWE isn't that great with building up the stars. We know that for certain. So it becomes a little difficult in that regard. But I also can see it from the fact that Hogan, I feel like, kind of coming back to him for a second, like Hogan is almost the opposite of this, the opposite side of the coin, if you will, because Hogan kind of used movies as a stepping stone to wrestling, if you want to think of it that way. Rocky III was really what put him on the map as this huge megastar. That's where he got a lot of the attention. From there on out, he would stick with wrestling for a lot of years, and he would develop that Hulkamania personality. But really, that first movie was where you would start to see the legend of Hulk Hogan develop from. Sometimes I forget that Rocky III happened before Hulkamania because of how big of a deal it was that he showed up on that movie as Thunderlips with Sylvester Stallone. So I think it's a case-by-case scenario, to be honest.
It depends, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it could be one way where you have, someone that uses that as a stepping stone. But in this case with Hogan, I feel like this is the perfect example of a movie star turned wrestler, as weird as that is to say, a movie star turned wrestler that definitely impacted the business for the better. So I think that was a really unique way to look at this whole scenario. So last topic before we actually move on to the show itself, I've talked about two names so far that were very instrumental in the birth of WrestleMania. Those, of course, being Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan. There's one other name that really doesn't get talked about as much that I feel like we should definitely shine a spotlight on, and that has to be Captain Lou Albano. Captain Lou, famous manager and one of the greatest talkers in the 80s, actually had a nice conversation with a pop star by the name of Cyndi Lauper on a flight to Puerto Rico, which is just the weirdest way to meet a celebrity, on a flight to Puerto Rico. They just had a nice conversation. Maybe they shared some Biscoff cookies on the flight, and ultimately it led to Captain Lou getting the role to portray the father in Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun music video. Lauper, from that point on, became very interested in wrestling, and Captain Lou was very quick to bring Cyndi into the fold because he understood this crossover appeal that would ultimately be dubbed as the age of the rock and wrestling connection. So this is where we kind of get we kind of bring in the build and the story to WrestleMania. So this is where you're going to start to see a little bit of that unfold. Captain Lou Albano and Cyndi Lauper appeared on an episode of Roddy Piper's Piper's Pit segment, as Lou credited himself for Cyndi Lauper's success being in the music video, just healing it up. And actually, Cyndi got physical with Lou Albano on the segment, started just, hitting her with their purse. And I think she even hit Roddy Piper. So she was definitely getting all in on it. Maybe she thinks wrestling is real. Who knows? It is real. But so this led to a match where Captain Lou and Cyndi Lauper both chose parties in the form of a women's wrestler to go at it on behalf of themselves, just for bragging rights. I don't know. Captain Lou chose the Fabulous Moolah, and Cyndi chose Wendy Richter. Richter defeated the Fabulous Moolah to become the new women's champion at the MTV special, The Brawl to Settle It All. Something I want to note real quick on the Fabulous Moolah. It was credited by the WWF that Moolah was champion, the women's champion, for over 20 years. She held on to the title in one reign. Obviously, that is not the case. And it's just a little fibbage by the WWF to make it sound bigger than it is. It was more like 5 years, but it's still fucking impressive, to say the least. We're over here debating about Roman holding on to the title for 2 years, let alone 5. So I think that's definitely crazy there. This all, the match at Brawl to settle it all led to a babyface turn for Lou Albano, and in an angle where they honored Cyndi Lauper for her contributions to the wrestling world, Roddy Piper came out, and his jealousy got the best of him, and he smashed a plaque over Cyndi Lauper's boyfriend's head at the time. I believe his name is Ben Wolf, I want to say. He was very involved with Mania as well, and he actually kicked Cyndi Lauper as well, which was... that popped me a little bit because I was not expecting him to just fucking kick her, whatever. That led to another match at the War to settle the score. So we have the Brawl to end it all and the War to settle the score. And of course, Hogan is on the poster for both of them because he's Hulk Hogan, brothers. Got to be on the poster, man. What are you gonna do, brother, when Hulkamania gets on both of the posters, dude? Regardless,
yeah.
The war to settle the score. A lot of rhyming here. Vince was very creative with these names.
Oh my God, yeah.
Led to Hulk Hogan defeating Roddy Piper by disqualification after Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff and Cowboy Bob Orton got involved on behalf of Piper. Whereas the A-Team's Mr. T, who was just watching, a casual viewer supporting Hogan from behind the barricade, jumped the barricade to defend Hulk Hogan. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. We have Mr. T jumping in, led to a whole mishmash of stuff going on. And ultimately, the War was the highest rated MTV broadcast up until that point. They did a lot they did a lot. And before that, I believe the Brawl to settle it all was the highest. So the War beat the Brawl.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it was the highest broadcast up until that point. And MTV did a lot to help the promotion for WrestleMania. But the War was the last MTV broadcast that they would do, trivia fact, because MTV actually wanted a share of the WWF. And in return, they would give them more broadcast. Vince said, that ain't going to work for me, brother. And ultimately, we would not see any more crossover with MTV. But it did the job because the WWF was able to get a lot of stars to come in, which we'll be talking about in the the WrestleMania portion of the show. But ultimately, that was the age of rock and wrestling. And a lot to unpack for sure. What are your thoughts on all of this? Do you feel like bringing in MTV was a smart? I'm sure it definitely was a smart move to get that casual audience. I mean, what's your take on all of this? Like, I could never imagine, a big television network. I can't even think of one right now that would partner up with the WWE in this day and age, let alone MTV, which was probably the hottest new thing in the 80s, partnering up with the WWF and Hulk Hogan. This was a pretty big thing at the time.
Yeah, dude, huge at the time. Like, just judging by the numbers that you're saying, it definitely. I think it was good for both parties because you say it was the highest rated thing on MTV, and I think that only helped MTV as much as it helped wrestling just in general, just because getting those casual fans in there. It's very interesting to hear, and I wish they did more stuff like this nowadays, but. MTV being on board with it is a very, very cool thing because it was the cool hip thing at the time. I look like I'm straight out of the 80s, baby. I should be on MTV. I should be the host of MTV. But
you have to get now your hair they've got out like that, like the big bouffant hair, like curl it a little bit. Oh my God,
yes. But now they've got what Catfish and Ridiculousness reruns playing on MTV.
Dude,
so
MTV
that's what we've devolved into.
It's especially now. If you want to talk
16
about 16
and pregnant all the fucking
WWE
time.
in 2022 and MTV in 2022 would be the weirdest collaboration. Like, what would you see? Ezekiel on Catfish, all of this. Fucking Zack Ryder on the Jersey Shore. That's if it was a few years ago.
That would make sense. That would make sense.
Throwing Robbie E from TNA. Where are we going with this? What I'm trying to say is, this was definitely a huge thing at the time. MTV partnering with them and getting in all these celebrities was just humongous. So props to the WWF for getting this done. Just a little bit more lead up before we actually get into the show. Just some little tidbits, if you will. So let's talk a little bit about just the lead up to WrestleMania here. So Jim Crockett Promotions was one of the bigger companies that were going up against the WWF still at this point. Vince just fucked all with all the rest of them, but Jim Crockett Promotions was still the big one. And they were running Starrcade events since 1983, which were very successful. So McMahon's answer to this, of course, would be WrestleMania. The crossover promotion with MTV was done to build up that interest with big stars, and they got a shit ton of press to come in to cover this event. So a lot was riding on this show. Vince put a lot of money in, got a lot of celebrities. The press was a lot of money. So a lot of cash all in all, to the point where they actually, this is a whole nother topic, which I won't get into, but you could definitely do your research on Black Saturday. That was a huge kind of part of this lead up to just the buildup of the WWF to the national stage. And basically, Vince McMahon but he worked his way into Georgia Championship Wrestling to take the coveted 6 p.m. on Saturday time slot that they were running on a national broadcast on TBS. Vince upset Ted Turner, who was in charge of TBS at that point, because he thought that, he would put on one type of wrestling. Vince was using the Georgia Championship Wrestling slot to promote his WWF. It was a whole big thing, but ultimately Vince had to sell that TV slot for $1 million to get more money to fund this WrestleMania event. So he really needed all the money he could get here. You also had Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, which they were making the rounds on doing a lot of promotion for WrestleMania. You had Hogan and T hosting Saturday Night Live, and they also made an appearance on the Richard Belzer show. So I don't know if you know about this, Nick, but this I actually knew before I did the research. But basically, Richard Belzer was a popular TV host around this time. I don't really know him that well, but I guess he wanted Hogan to do one of the wrestling moves on him. So he put him in a front chin lock, and you can see that on the picture to the right. Had him in a front chin lock, and then all of a sudden, Richard Belzer goes unconscious, and he falls to the floor, and he starts bleeding. So,
oh my God,
that wasn't good. Hogan was sued for $5 million. They settled it in court.
Oh my
I don't know.
God, dude.
So,
what?
Yeah, that was that was part of the that was part of the build up to Mania. Was Hogan?
You just like casually just mentioned that. I was like,
yeah,
$5 million. It's
WrestleMania. We got Mr. T. We got Hogan. Oh, that guy's choked out over there. But we got Wendy.
That's
just a little blip in the build up to Mania, but nevertheless, it adds to the overall story. Few little pieces to note, important things to know about before we get into Mania. At War to settle the score, Leilani Kai, managed by the Fabulous Moolah, defeated Wendy Richter for the Women's Championship. So Wendy didn't hold on to that title for long. Leilani Kai is your champion going into Mania. Prior to the event, Greg the Hammer Valentine was feuding with Tito Santana over the Intercontinental Championship belt. The Hammer defeated Santana on September 24th, 1984 for the Intercontinental Championship. Also, the U.S. Express of Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham won the WWF Tag Team Championships 3 months before WrestleMania from the team of Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch. I think it's pretty fascinating how I wonder why Greg Valentine, wasn't involved with Tito Santana, in the build the match in WrestleMania that we're about to talk about, and like the former tag team champions of Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch weren't even on the show, nor was Fabulous Moolah, which I would expect her to be in the ring since she was still wrestling around this point. It makes you think like what Vince's priorities were around this time, like what he wanted to promote to the general audience, and how he wanted his company to be perceived. Like, did he not want Moolah to be at the forefront? Did he think that Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch wasn't a big team to really consider or be a fan of? Did he not think that like Greg the Hammer Valentine and Tito Santana was a money match? It makes you think about like what Vince's mentality is going into these shows.
Yeah, no, you're right. I feel like Greg Valentine and Tito Santana would have been perfect for this card, but obviously they had their own little things going on in on this Mania, which is all right in and of itself. Tito Santana and Greg Valentine having their own little tiffs here on this event, which is good enough for me, I guess. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
again, would have been something great.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're hearing that bell again. I think it's time, Nick, to actually get into WrestleMania. Are you ready for this, Nick? It's our first Mania. Are you ready to go? Are you hyped up?
Dude,
Are you ready for WrestleMania?
I think I'm goddamn ready. Wait, let me just double check. Let me double check my watch. Let me see if everything's all. Dude, let's get into this.
Welcome, everyone, to the granddaddy of them all. Let's get into some wrestling. We are here to talk about WrestleMania number one. Happened on March 31st, 1985. And boy, oh boy, do we have a show to talk about. First of all, I want to just call out real quick that on the call for the show is Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura. Definitely the type of commentary that you would expect around this time. Let's just talk about it a little bit. What were your thoughts on Jesse and Gorilla on the call?
Dude, I thought they were great. Every time Jesse talked, it sounded like he was cutting a promo, and I thought that was really funny. It was very entertaining to listen to.
Yeah, they were phenomenal. Of course, a lot of repeated lines every now and then. Gorilla saw a lot of Pearl Harbors on the night, but
Oh
regardless,
my goodness, I want to talk about that, dude. How many Pearl Harbors have you seen, Gorilla Monsoon? I think I don't know. I don't want. I didn't count it because by the end of it, I was like, okay, they said it a lot of freaking times, but it's
yeah.
probably up there with like 10. It's double digits for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But it is time to get into the show. So we get a little intro package, painting out all the matches. Howard Finkel is our ring announcer. And of course, the show of WrestleMania has to start with the national anthem, as it always does. And who better to sing? Yeah, I think we should actually, we're going to have to edit that in post, just the national anthem there. Who better to sing the national anthem? Mean Gene Okerlund. Just what a I could not muster up the words of how much I loved that Mean Gene sang the national anthem. It was phenomenal.
Dude.
I heard that there was an unnamed celebrity who either canceled last minute or no showed, so Mean Gene had to step up, tighten that bow tie up, ready to go, and sing the national anthem. I thought it was pretty fun.
He has those pipes, man. I wrote in my notes, Mean Gene got them vocal cords. I did not expect this at all. I did the young Finkel. He was like, and now for our national anthem, Mean Gene Okerlund, and I was like, wait, is he gonna announce who's coming out? No, he bloody. And the rock is red. He did the whole thing, dude. It was great. And he went, everybody, he got everyone into it. It was so funny.
I love
So
that
great to
Mean
see.
Gene. He knew that he was not going to belt out those notes, so he was like, "All right,
Yeah.
I need everybody to sing along with me, just to make it that much worse." Because,
Yeah.
oh my god. But yeah, talking about the national anthem will definitely be a recurring topic here on Before Our Time. But it is time to get into some bloody action as we start things off with Tito Santana going up against the Executioner. Nick, take us through this match.
Yeah, so we had Tito Santana versus the Executioner. It was kind of strange because first we're first getting like on this match no entrances, which I thought was very very interesting. We got no entrances, and but I had one thing to make like the lockups are so crisp here by Santana. There's like a clear baby face and a clear heel, which is great. You have the Executioner wearing that whole mask and everything. The obvious bad guy. This was just like straight up, just classic wrestling. There's what's not to love about that. And Tito getting the victory in a sort of weird finish here, but yeah, overall, yeah, pretty good match. What do you think?
No, I loved this match more than I thought I would. It was a very quick opener. I believe it clocked in at around 5 minutes. Tito gets the win. I love the little opening spot that they did with the crisscross bouncing off the ropes. I thought that
Oh
was
yeah.
a very just a fun way to set the pace. Um, I put the little graphic here is actually Buddy Rose. He was the guy underneath the mask. Couldn't find the executioner himself, but no, I thought the match was so fun. I was not like it. I wasn't expecting like this type of action on the card. Like throughout the night, you'll get a lot of really slow pace stuff, little bursts of energy. But this, for the most part, was very high energy. You got a lot. This was a very story driven match too. Like before the match, the executioner says that he's going to be targeting the leg, and he does go for the leg for the majority of the match. Tito, of course, carried heavy in this match. I really enjoyed it. Little story there, but ultimately just a very energetic opener. This was the perfect match to get us started for Mania. And to our viewers, of course, you see the we're not going with stars here. We are going with my idols and Nick's icons. So those are your out of 5. We're going to be giving these grades. I gave it 2. I gave it 2 idols. I'm a little more strict with the grading. So although I liked it a lot, and I thought it was very high energy, I still gave it a 2. There were some parts, it could have been longer a little bit, but ultimately I gave it 2 idols.
Yeah, it could have been longer. I gave it 2.5, just because I feel like whenever I'm giving ratings, I'm like thinking out of 10, because that's just what my brain does. So I'm like, yeah, let's give it a half. Let's give it 5 out of 10. So yeah, 2.5 out of 5. I thought, there wasn't anything wrong with this match. Maybe just a little bit too short, but again, this was clear babyface, clear heel, and yeah. So I'm getting 2.5 on this bad boy.
Nice, nice. All right, so we're going to move right into our next match here, and got some
Oh,
thoughts
buddy.
on this one.
Oh, buddy.
We've got
Yeah.
King Kong Bundy versus Special Delivery Jones.
Yeah. Okay, Anthony, I'm seeing your bloody rating right here. I need you to talk about this match.
All right, I'll talk about this match. So let's just set the scene a little bit. Of course, King Kong Bundy, Special Delivery Jones. This was a glorified this was a glorified squash match. The official time that Howard Finkel notes is 9 seconds. I can promise you, it was not 9 seconds. This was a very long, long match, at least longer than 9. We had about maybe 2 moves, 3 moves. You get a little bear hug, throw him into the corner, throw him on the floor. Big splash by King Kong Bundy, and ultimately gets him the win. Why did I give this a dud? Well, there's not much to say. It was just I get it was a squash match, and I know that there wasn't much to really go into this, but everything between the just limited offense to them faking the number, Special Delivery, like everything all together, it just made me think just dud. I can't even. I'm more surprised that you gave this a full star, and not just that, you gave it a 1.5 stars. So go ahead, talk about this.
Okay. Well, going into it, I was like, "Oh, Special Delivery Jones, he's great," because they have the promos. A fun thing to note as well. Before every match, they have like a little backstage promo, pre-recorded with Mean Gene, which I thought was like great. It really like shows the like true character, because back in the day, these weren't characters; these were real people that we believed in. So it showed that their character and stuff like that. I thought it was great, especially with Special Delivery, man. I was feeling his energy. I saw what he was up against, King Kong Bundy. I was like, this man has no neck. There's no way Special Delivery Jones is going to win against no neck. And then, yeah, glorified. It was just a squash match. And a funny thing to note is they announced it later in the show that it was 9 seconds. That is completely bullshit. I thought, like, I wrote less on my notes. It was like shorter than a minute for sure, because I do a couple moves here. It's like maybe like 15, 20 seconds at best, right? But yeah, it's just a glorified squash match. Yeah. Not even glorified. It's just a squash match. Sorry, I shouldn't have thrown the G word out there like that. But It's really funny that there is a squash match in WrestleMania history, just in context of all the other years of WrestleManias, how big and grandiose everything is, and the fact there is a squash match in the history books on a Mania is very funny to me because that would not happen these days.
No,
So
absolutely not.
yeah, but 1.5. Maybe I was a little bit too generous to special delivery. I felt really bad for him. So, but I would love
The
his
stars
energy. I
were
don't
just
know.
for
I don't know.
SD Jones.
Yeah, the stars were just for Jones, man. I felt bad for the man. I'm sending him home happy with 1.5. There you go.
I mean, I will say it was definitely, I could see the star just on the shock value alone. Like seeing a squash match, it was like, what is going on here? But we would see later on.
But the thing is,
show,
I see the dud as well. I can see like why you gave it a dud because
oh
goddamn.
yeah, definitely both sides of the coin that I'm sure everyone can see. But
yeah,
when you're talking about squash matches, there would actually be a few more that weren't as quick as 9 seconds that I kind of caught on to. And the next one is one of those, which kind of adds to my rating of it. And that is Matt Bourne going against Ricky Steamboat. So I'll let you take this one for Ricky Steamboat and Matt Bourne.
Yeah, of course. So, we start out. The first thing that instantly catches my mind is that Ricky Steamboat is jacked, my man. Oh my god, he's on that testosterone. He's on that TTR, baby. But no, dude, he's so jacked. Because what we know of, like, what I know of Ricky Steamboat at least is his WCW stuff, where he's a little bit more lean. He's a little bit faster in the ring. He's a little bit more technical savvy. So I'm taking my jacket off. You've gotten
the jacket's coming off.
Ricky Steamboat. It's coming off. Here we go. But yeah, Ricky Steamboat is jacked and he's looking good. So and I noted here that there was a promo before each match again. I think that's a really great quality. I've talked about it in the other things. So I won't talk about it here. But Ricky wins by flying crossbody off the top rope, and yeah, I thought it was a little good match. I thought it was a good match here and there. I want to hear your rating of it though.
Right. Okay. So I'll get into this one because this was one of the matches that like I was expecting to like because it's Ricky Steamboat WrestleMania. Like I was expecting to like this match. I will say Steamboat looks phenomenal in this match. He has such explosive offense. There was some little burst. I love the beginning and I love the ending of the match. That's what I'll say. There were the little explosive little things in between. I feel like the middle just kind of dragged on. A little bit more positive note though, like Matt Bourne sells his ass off for Steamboat. Like he really goes all in, making the moves look great. The pacing, I thought it kind of worked, but with a little burst of energy, but it could have been longer. That was another point that I wrote down. Like, I feel like right when they were about to, hit their stride on the match, it was over. It was over with that. I feel like if you went on a little bit longer, maybe I could up that rating a little bit. Something I also want to note is, we always talk about, Brock Lesnar as the king of suplexes, like Suplex City. I think it's time to crown Ricky Steamboat the mayor of Back Suplex City, because not only is this man able to perform beautiful back suplexes, he is also able to get out of 2 back suplexes and deliver one right after. Ricky Steamboat, Mr. Back Suplex himself, I must say.
Mr. Back Suplex. If we had a little category of Mr. Back Suplex, I think Ricky Steamboat would hold that, and it would hold that then some. But yeah, like you said, like everything's super explosive. I was a big fan of Steamboat in this match, but maybe I should have ranked it a little lower. Trying to think now, but because hearing your
don't sell yourself
like
short. It was a good match.
Hey, no, it was a good match, but that's what we're here for, right? We're here to like discuss why we liked it, why we didn't like it, and it's kind of opening my eyes a little bit to with the arms wide open.
With the arms wide open.
Yeah. I guess what, we won't get copyrighted for the intro song. We're gonna get copyrighted for that little bit right there.
Just that little bit right there. Creed is gonna be on our ass, but
with arms wide open. Yeah.
It's just a perfect impression that we would have to get copyrighted for that. But no, I will say Ricky Steamboat looked great. I will say Ricky was in contention for my Mr. Mania, which is a segment we'll talk about later on. He was in contention for my Mr. Mania just because of how great he looked, in what was for the most part a one-sided contest here. I thought he looked phenomenal. And
I
we're
will
going to
say
see
as
more.
well. I will say this as well. Like, the matches are short. Like this and the previous three, they were pretty short, right?
Mhm.
And this pay per view is only 2 hours and 16 minutes. So that's like just a regular episode of SmackDown or a Dynamite, right? And
Yeah,
they're
that's a
trying to
great
fit
point.
in so much star-studded like content and wrestlers in this 2 hours. They could have easily made it three and given these guys extra time, but maybe I don't know, networks and stuff like that. I don't know how they worked back in the 80s, but yeah, just to think the note here as well, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, excellent point. Really great point there. But yeah, we could see it from both ends on the Ricky Steamboat match. We're going to see more of Ricky in this WrestleMania, look back throughout the before our time. It's one match I'm sure everyone is looking forward to in 2 episodes from now. But we'll get there when we get
Oh yeah.
there. But nonetheless, it's time to move on to our next match. And it is a contest between Brutus, not the barber, Beefcake, going up against David Sammartino. And I just got to say, there is no better way to completely kill off the momentum of a young star than just bringing out his much more popular dad and the fans just going ape shit over Bruno
Fucking
Sammartino.
losing their mind.
It was insanity. Like, what did you expect was going to happen, Vince? Like, you have Bruno Sammartino, who was your longest WWF champion, the king of Madison Square Garden. You put him back in MSG, and you're like, let's put his son in the ring. What? Like, what did you think was going to happen? No, I will say this match, however, was this was my match that really surprised me the most. I know I mentioned earlier on the first match surprised me. This, I was expecting like a very slow, like we did get a pretty slow match. I will say, like, a lot of definitely a slower pace, definitely working a lot of body parts and stuff. But nonetheless, this was a match that definitely caught my eye. And that's on the part of David. I thought he was really good from a technical standpoint and also from an explosivity. I thought he really brought a lot of energy. Brutus, I was a little shaky on Brutus, but David was
Brutus
really
was like
what
a rookie here, right? If I'm not mistaken, he was
I
like he
think
kind of got
he was
brought in as like
definitely
the
a lot. Yeah,
manager's
I don't know how
rookie.
long he was
Yeah.
wrestling by this point, but he was definitely he looked like a rookie. I'll tell you that. Just from the overall look and the appeal of him. Yeah, I mean, I wrote in my notes. I just love that fans could give less of a shit about his son and just cares about Bruno. I think another
Yeah.
funny thing to mention is if we're talking about Bruno and David is that Jesse Ventura, who just based off of this show alone, and like I love Jesse Ventura, but you could tell that Jesse and Gorilla were doing everything they could to make WrestleMania the biggest thing ever, and like rightfully so. But they were going above and beyond. Like he calls he says that David and Bruno, their noses are the same, their hairstyles are the same. Meanwhile, looks nothing alike. I'm like, you could tell
Dude,
like
yeah,
from the
yeah.
physique, like maybe like they're built the same way, they got the same no, just goes for the literal only things that they do not have in common. You have a lot of really great moments here, like even at the beginning, Johnny Valiant taking his time to take the ring gear off of Brutus. You know, just a good story overall of the face who's like rooted in technical and mat wrestling versus the heel who's resorted to the cheap shots and the cheating. And ultimately it ends with a huge pop for Bruno. I think they just throw the match out because, it was, Bruno and Johnny Valiant and Brutus and David just all going at it. And ultimately it just ends with a huge brawl, bell rings. And it was a huge mishmash. What did you think of the match?
Yeah, so this was an interesting one. Thing that I noted is everyone wearing the big 80s sunglasses, like when they're doing the promos before the matches. And I'm like, Nick Storm would fit in perfectly. Look at this. Look at these
Exactly.
bad boys that I got on. Look at this bad boy vision right now.
I'm telling you, man. You got
But
the hair, you
yeah,
got the glasses, you got everything.
I gotta pump it up. Gotta get that perm, baby. That's what I need
Right,
next.
right.
No, but big pop for Bruno. Huge pop, in fact. And I think, yeah, you made a great point. Outshadowing David to the fucking max with this, I think. So that's really funny. Yeah, they look at Bruno. Look at him right there. He's just chilling. Look at him. But yeah, there was a nice camera angle in this where it was the hard cam, but in the corner you could see there was a tiny square of Johnny Valiant's reaction. I thought it
Yeah,
was a very,
yeah.
very nice touch. And I wish they did that more often because that's actually a very nice. It looks like a little webcam in a YouTube gaming let's play or something. You know what I mean? But it's cool. It's good to get that reaction. It's a nice little. This is showing how young we are right now. Oh my god.
That's the point of the show. Just comparing Johnny
Yeah,
Valiant to Ninja. Like, fuck it, we're going with it.
Yeah, he's the PewDiePie of the '80s, baby. That's what I'm saying right there.
Johnny Valiant was
but
actually playing Fortnite while he was watching Brutus Beefcake wrestle.
Yeah, I was there. I saw it. I saw it happen
Yeah,
live.
so
But yeah,
Tom
but
was there too, by the way. He wasn't. He
Tom
was
Tom
there
was
for
there,
the
of course.
Yeah.
Look. If you told me Tom was here, I wouldn't. I would not doubt
Well,
it.
he was there for the
But
war to settle the score. He wasn't here for the Mania, but he was there for the
Gotcha.
show before this, which makes him even older. But we're not here to shit on Tom.
Yeah,
We're here to shit on David Sammartino, as if Vince didn't do it enough by putting Bruno with
yeah,
him. Continue.
I think if you badmouth Tom enough, he'll actually come in here and end the broadcast as we speak. So let's gloss over that. Let's, but dude, Johnny puts his hands on David, but gets a huge pop, fighting back onto Johnny, and the bell doesn't get rung until like a minute after everyone's brawling. Like Bruno's brawling, Johnny's brawling, David's brawling, Brutus is brawling. Everyone's goddamn. Look, you're hearing the bell right now. It's going off. It went off like goddamn crazy, but it did it after like a minute, like of just everyone. Maybe the ref was not on par that night. Who knows? But there was one way to describe this word, and it was pandemonium, as Gorilla Monsoon I think said. Pandemonium here in Wrestlemania, Madison Square Gardens. Pandemonium. But the finish, it's weird. It ends in a double DQ, even though
my
Johnny
God.
obviously laid his hands on David first, but it ends in a double DQ. I think Muhammad Ali would do a better job reffing this match, but we'll get more into that in the main event.
Oh my gosh, a lot to unpack for this match. Ultimately, I thought it was just a really good showcase of David. Definitely, you needed to get Bruno on the card in some capacity. I believe around this time, Bruno was still wrestling too. So it kind of adds to my point before on like, why wasn't Bruno, if he was wrestling around this time, why wasn't it maybe a tag team match? You know what I mean? So a lot of moving pieces here. But one thing I will say that I wrote in my notes here, we'll kind of take a quick break away from the talk of Mania. We're still talking about Mania, but we'll go on to the next match in a minute. I wrote it here, and I got to bring it up. Lord Alfred Hayes.
Oh my
Holy shit. Look, I get a lot of shit about the WWE commentary nowadays of like, oh, it's unoriginal. These announcers, they're just, drag and drop, cookie cutter, copy and paste interviewers. I'm sorry. Lord Alfred Hayes is horrendous. He was so bad. He should not have been there. It looks like he should have been anywhere else in this entire world than at WrestleMania. This guy is sitting there with the little like silver microphone that didn't even look like a microphone. And he's, thank you, Gene. Now we're going to go to another match that has to do with Andre the Giant. And if he doesn't win, then he will retire. And just abysmal. Like, I love that. There he is. Oh my God. Literally, like, I love that the wrestlers are just like walking past him, like bumping into him, screaming in his face. And he just does not. He's got that, like, that little book with him that he has all of his notes in about wrestling. It's just,
yeah.
I cannot believe. I can't believe it.
Dude,
tell me about
it is
Lord
ridiculous. So I was looking up that image, right? I was trying to find that on Google Images. I've searched Lord Alfred Hayes WrestleMania 1 on Google. First thing that comes up is a Reddit forum, and it's like, what's the deal with Lord Alfred Hayes at WrestleMania? No one knows. No one knows. That's the thing. And this was in 2020. How long ago was that? What, 85 to 2020? What, 35 years if my math is correct? Probably not. 40. Who knows? But
Who knows?
35 years, and no one even knows what the hell the deal with Lord Alfred Hayes is still to this day. He's a man of mischief, and goddamn, he was so funny to just watch. I don't know.
Well,
I was
he stuck
he was
around the
entertaining. It was
WWF.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, he's like just really like screw Hulk Hogan. He was Mr. Mania, I think.
Yes,
Screw anyone.
absolutely.
He was Mr. Mania. Yeah.
I just think it's hysterical that Lord Alfred Hayes, like, you see this. This is your first impression of the WWF if you're like a casual fan. Like, you watched Cyndi Lauper and like Lou Albano, Hulk Hogan, these huge personalities, and then you buy the pay-per-view to see all these larger than life characters,
And you see the biggest personality.
the first voice that you hear. Thank you, Gene. We're going to go to a match with Tito Santana. And I like atrocious. I don't want to hear anything from any other wrestling fan about the state of the WWE's commentary, because holy shit, if you had to deal with Lord Alfred Hayes, I'm praying for you. But that's enough shitting on Lord Alfred Hayes. Sure, he's a great family guy all around.
Let's get into the next match, young Anthony. We got Junkyard Dog versus Greg Valentine for the IC title, the Intercontinental title.
I feel like we should just do the Lord Alfred Hayes voice throughout the entirety of this episode now. Just, thank you, Nick. Yeah. Time to talk about two wrestlers who I don't really know anything about because I was just given this job before WrestleMania. Send it to ringside. All right, let's talk about this match now. So you wanna take the reins on the IC title match?
Dude, yeah, I'd be happy to. I'm a little bit holo-netting. You gotta apologize, guys. I'm all the way in the goddamn Australia, the AU. I'm on the other side of the ocean, all right? I'm in the other hemisphere. I think we're good. I think we're good. So, but yeah. Junkyard Dog, Greg Valentine. I have to note here that the IC title looks so different and so strange here. It looks like a silver coin on a green strap, but it's like still cool to see what they were dealing with at the time and how far it's progressed. Now you have like full-fledged diamonds on wrestling belts and stuff like that now. So very cool. This was my first time seeing Junkyard Dog in action, and I'm hooked instantly from the promo in the back. Hooked instantly. He starts going like a real dog, and I'm like, I love dogs. I'm more of a dog person than a cat person. I don't know about you, Anthony. So yeah, he hooked me instantly. Junkyard Dog, he is my dog. He got that dog in him, if you will.
He's got that dog in him. I was just about to say he's got that dog in him.
Got that dog in him. And this is a cool thing as well. A 1 hour time limit was announced, which I didn't know the WWE or WWF did at the time. They did those time limits. It could go to draws and stuff like that. I'm just still really young in my wrestling fandom, which is why, hence we're doing this. But I thought that was really cool to see. Junkyard Dog was the first person in this Mania to get entrance music for the night, which I thought was an interesting fact. Why here? Why now? I mean, I get it as well. Junkyard Dog, big name, big baby face. So I mean, it understands. Maybe they're trying to like cut costs a little bit. Maybe do the entrances for the bigger names. Who knows here? But JYD gets distracted by Jimmy Hart. Greg Valentine goes for an attack, but hits Jimmy Hart off the apron. Greg pins JYD by putting both legs on the middle rope for leverage, and the ref counts to 3. Tito Santana comes out. He comes out irate. He goes, what the hell's going on here? This is not my good wrestling. What are you doing to my good wrestling? And he comes out telling the ref to restart the match. The ref starts a count, and JYD wins by countout because Greg Valentine, he's hesitant to go step back into the ring. So yeah, this match, it ended in a really weird finish again. There's a lot of kind of strange finishes here, which I kind of noticed, but this is getting a 2.5 for me.
I'm giving this one a 1.5. You know, I like Junkyard Dog. I feel like, when I mentioned before, like why put him in instead of Tito Santana, which we even see Tito here. So obviously, I guess they would go on to continue the feud for Greg and Tito. I don't know. But obviously, we have Junkyard Dog in here. Like you said, he gets the entrance music. And like they don't play it on Peacock because you can't play the copyrighted music. But all of the guys and girls who had entrance music had like the copyrighted songs. Like we would see Wendy Richter. She has an entrance. She gets Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Hogan still had Eye of the Tiger up until that point. I don't know what JYD had. I would have to go in and look at that. But kind of a slower match overall. Not a lot of energy to it, but I guess that's almost the point of the IC title. Like it's always been that workhorse type of title. Greg the Hammered Valentine was definitely doing a lot to work the lower body of Junkyard Dog. And that's going to be something that I'm going to mention a lot on Before Our Time, is that I love wrestling that focuses on like story in the ring, like working a body part or like, just telling a story with the facial expressions and stuff. So that's really why my ratings come down to being so low, is because like this one, although it did to a point, have some psychology to it, it was really just like, it was almost like they just wanted to have Junkyard Dog on this show just to have him on the show, like get his face out there because he was a big name. But really where the low grade comes to is the fucking finish. Like, okay, yes, he rolls him up, gets the pin, then Tito comes out, and then he starts counting. And then he wins, but the fans are like, they're expecting a count out to be like, oh, so Junkyard Dog wins the title. No, Junkyard Dog doesn't win the title on a count out. That's not the rules of wrestling. So all the fans are probably confused, like, what the fuck? So he just gets his win and it means nothing? Yes, that's exactly what that means. I don't understand why they did it. I guess just to give him a win and keep the crowd happy. I could not tell you. But I think the finish was ridiculous. Greg the Hammer Valentine was, so-so on him. Junkyard Dog definitely had the crowd crowd buzzing with energy. Although even his promo I loved. I thought he had cut a really good promo too. Overall, just a really the total package of 1980s wrestling is Junkyard Dog. And I think we see Junkyard Dog in a few more WrestleManias later on. So we'll see more of the JYD. But ultimately, I'm going to give this a 1.5 idols. I'm not really, I wasn't too keen on this one.
Very fair.
But,
well, there you go. There you go. That's what Junkyard Dog's doing to you right now, because you're giving him 1.5, baby. But
Greg Valentine's going to start working on my legs because he does not go RRR. What? Anyways, let's move on to the next match. We're getting just title match after title match. This one is for the tag team championships. We have the US Express. As I mentioned before, they recently won the titles off of Adrian Adonis and Dick Murdoch 3 months ago. The US Express of Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, otherwise known as IRS. Did you catch that? That is Erwin R. Shyster himself. We have IRS and Barry Windham defending the titles against Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. And God, I wish I could find the clip of Iron Sheik just cutting his promo. Any of them. The pre-match promo when he cuts off Volkov after the national anthem, the post-match, literally any of the promos. I couldn't find any of them. But Sheik is so good. Like, I can't put into words. For those who haven't seen, I've done a show called Classic Match Classroom. And I did an episode with Tyler from Counted Out 7. Shout out to him. We did an episode highlighting the Iron Sheik versus Sergeant Slaughter. And that really gives you an idea. Like, this, what you see of Sheik, this WrestleMania alone, just take this and put it into an entire feud with Sergeant Slaughter. Like, it's mind-blowing. He is phenomenal. He's both amazing on the mic and awful on the mic at the same time. It's amazing. It is wonderful. Sheik, I love you. Fucking A1. He's my Mr. Mania. No, he's not, but he should be. But yeah, Nick, if you want to take this one before I just start beaming over the Iron Sheik some more.
Oh no, dude, you're more than welcome to beam over the Iron Sheik as much as you goddamn want. I'm holonetting right now. Yeah, baby, this is live. Just kidding, we're not live, but pre-recorded goodness.
You're good. You're good on my end. Keep it going, Nick. We're live, pal. We're going.
Good. Keep it going. Oh, we're live, pal. This was fun. This is pretty great. Volkov sings the Soviet anthem, which I thought was, oh my goodness, what a the crowd just fucking hates these guys. Want these guys dead, gone, out of the WWF, gone. People are throwing shit in the ring. The boos are insanely loud. I thought that was great, and I was like, this is real heat, baba. This is great. The Americans are insanely over, because why the hell wouldn't they be? There's great wrestling by Rotundo. The reversals, they all made sense, which I thought was very good. There was a big, hot crowd. The crowd was hot for the hot tag. For the hot tag, the crowd was hot. So it was great, man. The crowd was super invested in this because they genuinely hated Iron Sheik and Volkov here. And I guess how could you not if you're a proper American, hand on my heart, proper American right there. Volkov gets the pin eventually and wins the titles off of Sheik using Freddie's cane on Wyndham. And it really kind of embedded in my brain. These guys should have a tag team. They should go by not US Express. They should go by Wyndham Rotundo.
Oh my god. Oh man.
Do you get
this
it?
Is
Wyndham Rotundo.
No, I get it. No, I definitely get it. This is what I'm gonna have to deal with for the next 38 weeks. Yeah, no, I get
it.
So
then the Fiend debuts at WrestleMania 1.
I completely
lights go out.
Don't you? Yes,
yeah. Yeah, but yeah, dude, it was funny, and then Iron Sheik just calling Mean Gene Mean, which I thought was really funny. So,
Gene Mean.
Yeah, this is getting a Mean. This is getting a 3 out of 5 for me. So I'm glad you're on the same page with this. Gene Mean is so funny.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this is great. Wyndham Rotundo getting the L.
Taking the L on Mania. No, I'm giving this 3 idols as well. This was, up until this point, nothing came close to this match for me. Between the pre-match stuff, everything in ring, this was just a great match to have. And this was a match that was almost out of its element. Like, so far, you would get a lot of slow stuff outside of the opener, which I thought was a very fast-paced match compared to everything else on the card, of course. But from that point on, it was very slow, maybe a little energy every now and then. This, for the most part, you're getting a lot of energy from the US Express or Wyndham Rotunda, whatever you want to call them. And you got Sheik and Volkov really healing it up. I think they really, put their own into the match and, just, play their role well. If they weren't playing it well already on the mic with the national anthem, they were definitely doing it in the ring. Sheik, as you said, uses the cane, which just adds to the heat, getting that real heat, brother. So this was, for me, match of the night so far. Will that, hold up throughout the night? We shall see. But so far, I love this match. Thought it was a great tag team match and just a beautiful display of some wrestling here on WrestleMania 1. Anything else on this match before we move on?
Iron Sheik, give him all the gold. There you go.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It sucks that he was only a transitional champion to Hulk Hogan because, he should have just been world champion. All right. We're going to have to do a bonus episode on Iron Sheik, I think. But for now, it is time to get into... This is where we kind of hit the big matches, if you will. Right? These are our main events. So it is time to get into our first of our 3 big money matches here.
Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd.
And by money match, that is a pun intended. You see what I did there? Because it's $15,000 body slam, and it's a bag of money. Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd.
Anthony, you did so well, baby. You did so well, sweetie.
Thank you. Oh my God, I was working on that one. Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd in a $15,000 body slam challenge. As Lord Alfred Hayes so eloquently put it, if Andre the Giant does not body slam Big John Studd, he will retire. There he is. He will retire from the World Wrestling Federation. And now it is time to send it over to ringside as the bell is going. You know what I mean. This is another match between us that has a very huge difference in icons versus idols. So, Nick, I'll let you take the floor on this one.
Yeah, so this was very interesting to me. $15,000 on the line. If the Giant loses, he has to retire, which I found was really interesting. Mean Gene trying to take some money out of the bag from Big John Studd, and I thought that was really funny. He was trying so hard while in the interview to just take a little bit of money. Maybe Vince isn't paying him so well, so get that sorted out.
For sure.
Ringing the bell a ton while announcing the names, which I thought, like, you can hear it right now, ringing the bell. I don't know what's happening. Who was the guy ringing the bell? I don't know what was happening this whole night, because I think he might have just discovered Adderall for the first time, and he was like, I'm gonna get paid extra for this, and he just
I'm getting my money's worth tonight. It's WrestleMania, baby. Ding, 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 ding. Whole night. After every sentence from Howard Finkel, there was a bell.
Yeah, there was a bell. Yeah, undoubtedly. I want to go back and count all the times I rung the bell now. But a thing I noticed as well is John Studd is big. You know, it's in the name, but Andre the Giant is huge. My God, this man is giant. He's got a great future in this business as a big man. You know, definitely. But yeah, Andre wins with a body slam, which I thought was like, he just hit a body slam and then the bell rang. I mean, the bell's been ringing the whole night, so that's not really something new. But he won just off of a body slam, and so I guess handed the $15K. And I thought what was really funny in the back as well is Andre was talking with Mean Gene, and it's so off kilter and so off script. They just cut to the shot of the arena because they're cut for time, which is hilarious. They're like all talking over each other, and then it transitions to a shot of the crowd, which I thought was hilarious. It's just, I don't know, it's like some shit out of The Office or something. It was fantastic.
I don't know if you've ever heard Dan Soder's impression of Andre the Giant. It is the greatest impression of. I wish I could do an Andre impression, because like this promo, like Gene's like, "Oh, you body slam Big John. How you feeling?" And he's like, "Oh, I got out there and I found Big John Slaughter." And they just cut him off. They're like, "Fuck off, enough. You're talking too long." No, I mean, this was a fun little. You know, I wouldn't really consider this like a match, but this was definitely, to me, I don't know what you feel about this, but this was definitely the first like WrestleMania moment that we've gotten so far. Like, this is something that, you know, was talked about years past, like Andre, huge name, both literally and figuratively. Big John Studd getting body slammed. Overall, I thought it was, you know, I gave it one idol because, of course, this was not a really great match, but I gave the one idol for the body slam itself. And we actually have a clip of it that I want to play just to experience what the call was like. And just to give you an idea of how hyped up this was.
Andre now going to work on the leg. Look at this. Andre picks him up. He's thrown down. It's all over. Andre looking for the money. He's got it. Slams. Look at this. He's going the money out. Uh-oh, look at that. Bobby the Brain heated. Grabs him back with the money.
Of course, it was a deep gorilla there because copyright, pal. But nevertheless, they really sold that moment. It was a great little, cap off to, you needed Andre on the card. You needed a big moment with him. So slamming someone who is almost equal his size is definitely a way to get that moment. Of course, it wasn't a great match, but nonetheless, I thought it was just a fun little breakaway from the action to get this big, Andre slam.
Yeah, it
So
wasn't a great match, but I gave it 2.5 just because of the stuff surrounding it, like the
yeah,
15K on the line, the promo after it was hilarious. That I don't know, that thing jumped up a couple icons for me. So yeah,
I hear you. No, definitely a lot of other factors that definitely bring it to that type of. I think yours definitely. I think your grades really encompass like everything else, not just the wrestling, which I really like. I like how you kind of include like the pre-show promos and all of the extracurriculars. Mine, I'm kind of like sticking just to the in-ring action, but I like that we have a difference
yeah,
there, which I'm liking a
I
little
like that.
vibe here,
Yeah,
a little
it
difference.
gives dynamic to the show, so which is nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it is time to move on to our next big matchup here, and it is for the Women's Championship.
Leilani Kai versus Wendy Richter.
Leilani Kai defending the Women's Championship, or I think they called it the Ladies Championship here.
They called it the Ladies
Against,
Championship. Yeah,
of course, it is the Women's Championship nowadays. I don't know. You could tell how much they really valued the women's division in the 80s around this time, but they valued it enough to give the women a prominent role, one of the main event matches. Cyndi Lauper was involved with Wendy Richter, and you had Fabulous Moolah, who of course is a legendary wrestler in her own right, with Leilani Kai. So a lot, kind of riding on this match. Definitely was involved with the whole rock and wrestling era. And I don't know. I thought this match was pretty solid overall. And I'm interested to see what you think about this. I thought Leilani Kai was miles ahead of Wendy Richter in this match. Like, to me, like Kai was carrying the match. She sold really well for Richter, made her look great. A lot of her moves just really sold me. Richter was a little sloppy at times. Like, I feel like Leilani was like on her game, ready to go for this match. But ultimately, Wendy Richter does get the win. Cyndi Lauper gets involved with some shenanigans, but ultimately it is Wendy who takes the title back. This is now I believe this would be her second reign, unless she won it before the original show. And we get a nice shot of, as I try to find it here, we get a nice shot of Wendy and Cyndi. I really love this moment that they're like dancing in the ring with the belt and they're just like doing a circle. I think that's a really cool moment there. Something I want to bring up. I cannot believe that Cyndi Lauper is not in the WWE Hall of Fame. If it wasn't for Cyndi Lauper, and of course, Hulk Hogan, Vince, all of that, but Cyndi Lauper for sure. If it wasn't for her inclusion and, being on that flight with Lou Albano, going to Puerto Rico and, fighting with Roddy Piper and getting kicked by Roddy Piper and having all these segments and having Lou Albano on the music video, do you think that like WrestleMania would be as big of a deal as it was without that MTV crossover? Like, it's so mind-blowing that someone as instrumental as Cyndi Lauper isn't in the Hall of Fame. She should definitely be in the celebrity wing as soon as possible. I don't know how it hasn't happened already. But, yeah, that's my little rant on that. What were your thoughts on the match? What did you think about this little women's match that we had here?
I thought this match was stronger than some. Definitely, they got more time than some of the other matches, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, Leilani Kai, dude, she was selling like crazy. I think she was the breakout star as well from this match. Definitely carried Wendy Richter in this match. Wendy was great, don't get me wrong, but I think Leilani Kai just has that little up. But this was great, dude. A little thing I noted here watching the match is Wendy had a hammerlock on the floor to Leilani Kai, and Leilani literally tapped out multiple times. There was was multiple times in that one hold that she was tapping on the floor, and I was like, huh? So something has to fire all the refs that were on this freaking card tonight. You had people ringing the bell a minute after, double DQ after a literal DQ. Like, what's happening here, referees? You need to be on the payroll more a little bit, I think. But
Yeah, exactly.
I think I need to take some fashion inspiration as well from Cyndi Lauper. She's
Oh
killing it
yeah.
here, and I think everything that you said about she was a really integral part. Like she even took her job as a manager super seriously. If you saw in the backstage segments, she was acting like a manager. She was putting on the whole character, and I think that maybe that's outshined a little bit by everything else that happened here. But I thought that was really cool that she was super on board because obviously she's foreign in this whole world. So the fact that she was really on board, that was really cool, I thought. And yeah, Wendy wins the title, and there's a brawl happening after the match, and all hell breaks loose. Bells are ringing, whistles are blowing. Who freaking knows what's even happening anymore? So
Yeah, and in all of that, we both give it 2 idols, 2 icons. I think it's a very strong 2 from both of us. Definitely some of the better wrestling that I saw throughout the night, and it was a nice showcase for the women. So yeah, props to them for putting a lot of effort into this whole rock and wrestling Cyndi Lauper feud, and it was a really nice way to showcase both Wendy Richter and Leilani Kai on the card. So all around thumbs up there. But with all of that taken into consideration, we have gone through 8 matches, and it is time. It's time for the main event.
Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff.
The main event
Paul
is upon us,
Orndorff,
ladies and
baby.
gentlemen. Paul Orndorff, baby. Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper versus Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, the dynamic duo of Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. Before you I'm going to let you take the reins on this one to break down this match. But before you do, I just want to say, like, it's always talked about, like, WrestleMania entrances and how great of an appeal that is. Roddy Piper had such a good entrance.
oh man,
And it was simple.
mm-hmm.
But it was so effective with the bagpipes and his smirk just coming out and circling the ring. Like, everything about it just screamed WrestleMania entrance. So that is the one thing I wanted to call out. But Nick, take the reins on this one and tell us about this star-studded main event.
Dude, this was fun. I thought this was really, really fun. Again, like we have similar idols and icons, so we both thought this was a fun time, I think. They get Billy Martin as a guest ring announcer. I think he was like a baseball legend. We don't really get into baseball much over in Australia, so that was kind of foreign to me. Another thing that I noticed as well, they got fucking Liberace as the guest timekeeper, which is such a guest timekeeper, a guest ring announcer. He starts doing the can with the dances, which is like that very iconic kind of moment, which is fun in WrestleMania history. It's very iconic. Muhammad Ali comes out as a guest referee, and I'm starting to think, do they even hire anyone anymore? Are they just, do they even need referees? Do they need timekeepers? They're just getting people, part-timers coming in. Maybe that's what CM Punk was talking about, all the part-timers coming in. No, I'm just kidding, but... but dude, yeah, I thought this was like a star-studded ring crew. Like this should happen more often. But I think maybe because wrestling and the wrestlers are more established now than they were back then, as its own sort of entity, as its own sort of world, that maybe we don't get that. People take it more seriously when it comes to that sort of stuff. But this is just like overall fun that Muhammad Ali came out. That surprised me. And the fact there was even a guest timekeeper was pretty cool, I thought. But Piper's entrance was cool, getting bagpipe entrance to the ring with a full marching band. People throwing garbage into the rings that people are invested into the heels, which is great. So there's a clear babyface, clear heels. Mr. T and Hogan's entrances were badass. I thought they looked so sick coming down. And another thing I noticed as well is watching this, it's almost been a full year after Paul Orndorff passed away. So I thought that was, I thought it was cool how we kind of lined this up subconsciously, unintentionally with it. So rest in power, Paul Orndorff. I'm glad we're talking about him here. But yeah, dude, the crowd is super pumped for this, man. This is a moment they've all been waiting for the whole night. This is what they came to see. This is WrestleMania for them. This is Mr. T, Hogan versus Piper and Orndorff. The crowd is super hot. Mr. T drops Piper like yesterday's newspaper, which I thought was a funny line on commentary. Ali going ham, beating everyone's asses, which is great to get everything in order as the outside referee. And yeah, Hogan and Mr. T teeing off on both Paul and Roddy. The crowd's losing their mind. There was a huge kind of pop for that. And yeah, Hogan eventually gets the pin, and everyone gets sent home happy, which is great.
Oh man, this was such a fun main event. You know, I feel like if nothing else for this WrestleMania, they definitely hit on all of the necessary, aspects to put on the ideal wrestling show that anyone can enjoy. A hot opener, moments, celebrities, and a strong main event. And this was a main event that, although my idols may say differently, to me, 3 stars for a show like this. This is well and away was my favorite match. And it's going to factor into a few of the other grades that I give later on. And I just feel like everyone played their part really well here. And I think it's very kind of ironic that Mr. T did so well as he did, because I'm pretty sure that I would have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure Mr. T was like terrified to get in the ring. Like, even with his A-team and even being involved in Rocky, like he was terrified to get into the WWF. But even with all of that, I think it's just so funny that he did put on such a great performance. You have the stare down with him and Piper, that iconic shot of him putting him up on his shoulders. Even Hogan was really like, he knew that everyone was there to see them, so he really made sure to pull out all the stops. And it goes without saying, but, a lot of people would consider Hogan versus Piper to be the match that should have happened at WrestleMania 1. I've seen that all the time. Like, oh, why don't you just do Hogan versus Piper? That was the match that happened at War to settle the score. Why not do it here? Well, I feel like when you talk about everyone played their part well, that's where you bring in Orndorff. Because to me, you have Piper, who's kind of like the cheap shot guy. And, I saw this as I was watching, like, he would do the cheap shots and he would, throw more punches. And Orndorff was that just power guy. So, he was really the one to, do a lot of the big moves, whereas Piper was more of like the striking. And I think you get the best of both worlds on that side of things. You give Hogan someone to, go up against in Orndorff, to Orndorff could slam him, because you're not going to have Piper slam Hogan. It's a weird visual. So I think everyone just like fit in. It was like a puzzle. It was perfectly lined up. It was really great. Of course, the in-ring action wasn't superb. It wasn't amazing, but I think it's the, extra stuff on top of that, all the character work with Piper, just the electricity from Hogan, the star power of Mr. T, just the valuable, necessary worker of Paul Orndorff. Everything just worked. And I think that is why this has to be my number 1 match on the card. Gave it 3 idols. You gave it 3.5. Just a fun match overall.
Yeah, dude, I agree 100%. Like, yeah, this is the reason people came here tonight. I feel like this was the main selling point, and what a selling point it is. You have Mr. T and Hulk Hogan on a tag team. That's huge today, right? So, like, it's kind of hard to have longevity in that sort of thing, in star power. You think of Mr. T and Hulk Hogan on a tag team, still to today, that's huge. Even if it came up today, you know what I mean? As a thing, if you had Mr. T and Hulk Hogan. So that's still a big thing. And yeah, this is I won't lie, a match with Mr. T and Hulk Hogan would have been cool, but I feel like it would have been babyface against babyface, and that would have been more confusing maybe for the crowd. Who knows? But like I feel like it worked here with a tag team.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the first main event in WrestleMania history. This would go down as the first major match. And this is the first major main event that we are reviewing here on Before Our Time. And that puts a pin and puts it in the cabinet for the first WrestleMania that we are reviewing here. A fun show, a very fun show to watch overall. And we have some other little tidbits that we have to get to before we wrap up the show. So let's just jump right into it. We have a segment here that I alluded to before, and that is we are going to crown Mr. Mania. Mr. Mania. So every episode, we are going to narrow it down to who was the top dog of that WrestleMania, who was the just best performer, could be a wrestler, it'll probably end up being, it'll be a wrestler. Or maybe it's Lord Alfred Hayes.
No, it'll be Lord. Yes, Lord Alfred Hayes, baby. That's where my money's going.
Yeah, but we'll keep it to just wrestlers because we always talk about Shawn Michaels as Mr. WrestleMania. Well, is there someone else who might be Mr. WrestleMania? We're gonna have to go through and see. But Nick Storm, I'm gonna let you pick first. Who was your Mr. Mania?
Well, fresh off the heels of what we were just talking about, the main event, I will have to go with Mr. T, man. There's a lot of pressure that goes into being in front of a crowd and being in front of a crowd of such great magnitude. I believe it was 25,000 maybe people in attendance. And I thought that was huge, especially for the first WrestleMania of many. And for the main event, he handled it super well, man. Like, he was doing some great stuff in the ring. And I feel like, I don't know, he was one of the stars of that Mania. So I feel like to give him Mr. WrestleMania here or Mr. Mania here is valid. And yeah, Mr. T is my guy for here. You fool. I wrote
Pity
Mr.
the
T
fool.
fool
Pity
in
the
the notes
fool.
here. Yeah. There you go.
No, great pick. I feel like you could have gone with anyone in that main event, honestly, to be Mr. Mania, just because of how instrumental they were, not only in that main event, but the build up to the main event. And, if you haven't already, go and check out a lot of those different promo packages and hype videos that Mr. T and Hogan did training. Piper was involved in some of them as well. Just a lot of build up and a lot of hype to this Mania. And I would say for sure that it definitely lived up to the hype. But if we're talking my Mr. Mania, like I said, it was more than likely going to be someone from that final main event. I considered some guys like Ricky Steamboat, Tito Santana, just because of how much I appreciated them in the ring. But it really all came down to Roddy Piper. I picked Roddy Piper for my Mr. Mania this time around. And that is because although Hogan and Mr. T were the main attractions, I don't think you get as big of an impact of Hogan and Mr. T together if you don't have that strong antagonist in Roddy Piper. He is just the quintessential heel. He is, from everything, just the build-up where he was smashing records over Cyndi Lauper's boyfriend's head, when he's any of his Piper's Pit segments. And then, we get to the Mania in his big entrance with the bagpipes and him just, going nose to nose with Mr. T, wanting to tag in, and then just pissing off and trying to leave the building and just selling for Hogan, selling for Mr. T, making them look like such big threats. Ultimately, I feel like once I saw his performance, I knew he was definitely going to be in contention, but for me at least, it was a clean sweep. I knew Piper was going to be Mr. Mania just because of the role that he played on this show. So I went with him, but I could definitely see Mr. T as well. I think you picked a phenomenal choice as well. I think we both picked some pretty good Mr. Manias here.
Yeah, dude. I now you bring it to my attention, man. Roddy Piper did a lot in that main event. You wouldn't have such over baby faces if you didn't have Roddy working his ass off, man. He healed off enough to get shit thrown into the ring, and that only happened in another match, and that's because they were foreign and your whole USSR and all that sort of I'm a real American sort of thing in the tag title match. So you had that obviously, but Roddy just got this off of heel work, like great character work, and so that's a very, very solid choice for Mr. Mania.
Totally. Well, we have one more segment that it's going to be a little bit different this week. We are not going to do it in full. Next week, we're going to start up, but I'll throw it up there as well. So this is all the marbles. This is all the marbles. So Nick, this was actually something that we came up with, as far as our ranking system. If you want to explain what we're doing here, because I think this is a really cool way to kind of, list out our kind of Mania experience here.
Yeah, so we're doing a whole thing. By the end of this series, we're going to see what ranks. Actually, I forgot, man. Do you want to do this?
We're live, pal. So basically
live,
what we're doing is we wanted to rank the WrestleMania straight up. And we were like, all right, we'll have a list of just, a running list of our manias. But then we were like, we're going to have the same list. It's going to end up being, fucking WrestleMania 3 is on top this week. Oh, it's Mania 3 for me as well. So we thought, how can we change it up? So instead, we are going to have a running list of our top 10 WrestleMania matches. And it's going to be updated every week. We're going to have a nice little graphic for it. And every week we are going to update that top 10 list with, the new Mania matches. And by the end of it, we should have a definitive top 10 WrestleMania matches of all time. Now, we do not have a graphic this week because there weren't even 10 matches on the card. So instead, we'll give you a little teaser, a little taste, if you will, of
give you a taste. You want a taste?
A little taste. We'll give you a taste of what our lists are looking like right now. So, Nick, I want you to give me your top 5 matches from this WrestleMania. Just list them out. I'll list mine, and we'll get the hell out of here.
Perfect. Yeah. So, I was actually gonna when you told me to explain what it was, I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to say in case it was completely different. I didn't want to make a whole new segment out of thin air. So I'm glad I was on the same page. Thank you, young Anthony, my savior. I was falling and you picked me up and you put me back on my feet, and I appreciate that. But yeah, my number 5, I would have to say David San Martino versus Brutus Beefcake. Number 4 goes to Junkyard Dog Greg Valentine, the IC title match. 3 would have to be Iron Sheik Nikolai Volkov versus Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham, or Windham Rotundo, as I like to say.
Rotundo, yeah.
My number 2 is Steamboat and Bourne. And my number 1 would have to be Hogan and Mr. T versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper.
That is a sexy list of 5 great matches. I am going with my number 5. I'm going with the Women's Championship, Leilani Kai versus Wendy Richter. Number 4, David San Martino versus Brutus Beefcake. Number 3, I am actually going with Tito Santana versus the Executioner. Fucking love that match. Number 2, I got the tag titles because I just love Sheiky Baby. And number 1, of course, I also have Hogan and Mr. T versus Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. And I would say both of our lists are great. I would love to know from our listeners what your top 5 matches from this Mania are. If you want to drop them in the comments below, definitely need those comments. But Nick, we're done. We are done with the first episode of Before Our Time. WrestleMania 1 is in the books. It's done. It's over. And next week, we will be moving on to WrestleMania number 2. And we will be going in chronological order up until the last WrestleMania. Any concluding thoughts on this WrestleMania, Nick?
Well, I'm glad we traveled all the way to March 31st, 1985. I'm going to get the time traveling machine back up. I'm going to get it back up and ready, back up and toasty. Warm it up for us to get back to hell to freaking, what day is it? 15th of July here. 2022. When you're watching this, probably, who knows? Who freaking knows? We're gonna time travel. We're gonna know the different stations, if you will.
Yeah.
But man, this was a very, very fun WrestleMania. I was big onto this whole idea for this series because I don't know about myself. I don't know about you, young Anthony, but myself, I've missed a lot of wrestling, and I really would like to catch up. And I think this is a great kind of way to catch up and kind of give our 2 cents and our thoughts as well on everything going down as it's happening. So I thought might as well make a series out of it, and here we are, guys. Here we are, before our time. Episode 1's in the books. Young Anthony, concluding thoughts, baby.
Oh man, this was such a fun show. I knew right from the start that there was going to be so much to talk about on this episode alone. We were saying, let's go like an hour for the show, and we have went an hour 45. Hopefully this has not become the trend, but there was so much to talk about. If it goes long, it goes long. We had an amazing conversation tonight. And yeah, you said it best. Like, I'm 20 years old. You just turned 21 years old. Happy fucking birthday to you, my man. And
thank you, sir.
I feel like for sure we have missed out on so much wrestling to the point where when we get these opportunities to go back and not only watch the wrestling, but watch it together and be able to share different opinions and share different outlooks on stuff. It's a really special thing. I think that's where the tavern really brings people together to really share our different outlooks on wrestling. So I am so excited for the next 38 weeks with you watching WrestleManias. And I'm sure next week is going to be a boatload of fun too, because WrestleMania 2 happened in 3 separate locations. That is a little teaser for next week. WrestleMania 2 happened in 3 separate locations. More on that next week, folks. But until then, there's only one thing left to say. Make sure that you follow theturnbuckletavern.com. You can support the tavern in any way that you want to. Listen to our podcast on Apple and Spotify. Watch us on YouTube, Twitch. We're on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Join the Discord where you can talk with some other like-minded individuals about wrestling, and get our merch on ProWrestlingTees.com as well as Teespring. And also, big shout out. Oh my God, we're naked. Big shout out to Shot of Nostalgia as well. I just want to shout those guys out because we are now sharing a day with them. Friday is just your day of tavern nostalgia. So Ace, Mike, thank you for letting us on Fridays. And I'm excited for the there he is.
I had to, before we get out of here, I had to pull up Lord Alfred Hayes with the lipstick on his mouth. He got passed by all the beautiful women walking by here at Madison Square Garden.
Well, from all of us
again.
Oh God. Well, from all of us at the Turnbuckle Tavern, before our time, we are here to say I didn't come up with an outro yet. Thank you all for watching. We will see you on the next one. But until then, take care.